sick of being a man. And it happens that I walk into tailor shops and movie houses, dried up, waterproof like a swan made of felt, steering my way in a water of blooms and ashes. The smell of barbershops makes me break into hoarse sobs. The only thing I want is to lie still like stones or wool. The only thing I want is to see no more stores, no gardens, no more goods, no spectacles, no elevators. It so happens that I am sick of my feet and my nails, and my hair and my shadow. It so happens I am sick of being a man. Still, it would be marvelous to terrify a law clerk with a cut lily, or kill a nun with a blow on the ear. It would be great to go through the streets with a green knife, letting out yells until I died of the cold. I don't want to go on being a root in the dark, insecure, stretched out, shivering with sleep, going on down into the moist guts of the earth, taking in and thinking, eating every day. I don't want so much misery. I don't want to go on as a root in a tomb, alone under the ground, a warehouse with corpses half frozen, dying of grief. That's why Monday, when it sees me coming, with my convict face, blazes up like gasoline, and it howls on its way like a wounded wheel, and leaves tracks full of warm blood, leading toward the night. And it pushes me into certain corners, into some moist houses, into hospitals where the bones fly out the window, into shoe shops that smell like vinegar, and certain streets hideous as cracks in the skin. There are sulfur-colored birds and hideous intestines hanging over the doors and houses that I hate, and there are false teeth forgotten in a coffee pot. There are mirrors that ought to have wept from shame and terror. There are umbrellas everywhere, and venoms and umbilical cords. I stroll along serenely with my eyes, my shoes, my rage, forgetting everything. I walk by, going through office buildings and orthopedic shops and country courtyards with washing hanging from the line, underwear, towels, and shirts from which slow, dirty tears are falling.
What is the theme and tone of this poem?
The theme of this poem is that the same everyday itinerary can cause negative feelings, which displays the tone of crestfallen, dark, and tired.
How does our video relate to the theme of the poem?
In our video, we portrayed a person going through a school week and getting progressively more tired and sick of doing the same thing every day as the week goes on, just as the speaker of the poem is exhausted and depressed by everyday life.
Why did we choose the songs we chose for our video?
We chose the songs Best Day of My Life, Happy, Break Even, Bad Day, and Say Something because they embody getting progressively more tired as one goes through the everyday routine of life.
What are examples of personification in this poem, and how do they show imagery?
Personification throughout this poem. For example, there are mirrors that ought to have wept from shame and terror, and dirty tears are falling, adds emphasis to the tone and emotions of the poem. The mirrors weeping from shame and terror symbolizes the speaker's depression. The dirty tears falling embodies the crestfallen mood of the poem as well. Personification creates a greater impact on the reader by deepening the mood of the poem. What are examples of repetition in the poem?
An example of repetition in this poem is when it repeats, "It so happens." In the first line it says, "It so happens I am sick of being a man." A few lines down it says, "It so happens that I am sick of my feet." Lastly, "It so happens I am sick of being a man." These lines convey the intensity of the speaker's tiredness of being him or herself. The next example of repetition in this poem is the line saying, "I do not want to go on being a root in the dark. I do not want so much misery, and I do not want to go on as a root in a tomb." The repetition of "I do not want" displays intense negative feelings that the speaker has throughout this whole poem.
What are examples of similes throughout the poem?
The similes in this poem include, for example, in the first stanza, like a swan made of felt, signifying that the swans have no meaning or purpose and are basically just sitting there. In the second stanza, the line is, "The only thing I want is to lie still like stones or wool." And this signifies that to lay and not do anything, and that no one acknowledges you, and that the speaker of the poem doesn't want to do anything. Farther down, it explains how Monday blazes up like gasoline, and that even in an inanimate object's eyes, it sees the hate in the speaker and is affected. Then, furthermore, they say that Monday is on its way like a wounded wheel, saying the wheel is it's so loud and obnoxious and can't be stopped but has to keep going, similar to how Monday is a pain but can't be stopped. Furthermore, they say the shoe shops that smell like vinegar, or the streets hideous as cracks in the skin, signifying that they are foul and gross, unbearable, and it's how the speaker feels about life.
What are examples of metaphors throughout the poem?
An example of a metaphor in the poem is a water of loom and ashes. Here the speaker says he is steering his way through the water of loom and ashes, representing life. This is meaning that it's very difficult and almost impossible to just go through life, birth to death, as the speaker is.